Hi there Jeep owners, then your 1989 Jeep Wrangler YJ. We're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install Roadmaster's diode wiring kit. And the main reason for installing diodes here at the back, it'll allow all your motorhome signals to come from your motorhome 7-way connector and illuminate this light. But if you were to just wire it up without diodes, it would not only illuminate the light, but it would also backfeed on your circuitry and potentially damage components on the vehicle. The diodes act as a one-way check valve for electricity that will let it go from our motorhome to our light, but it will not let it go back down our factory wiring and affect anything on our vehicle. We've got the hazard lights on in our motorhome, and you can see the lights flashing at the back of the motorhome is being mimicked here on the vehicle. And this is going to be the same for all the lighting signals here at the back, which includes our left turn signal, right turn signal, tail lamps, and brake lamps, which will keep us DOT compliant in all states. Diode wiring is my preferred method for getting a flat tow setup with lighting signals. There are a few options, but this is definitely going to be the cleanest. You can't see any of the installation components. They are going to be hidden behind the assembly there in the vehicle. And this is going to just illuminate your factory lights so it looks just like it would if it was driving down the road. Some of the other options are a bulb and socket kit where you physically drill a hole into your light assembly and add another bulb. I don't particularly like that style because once you drill into the assembly, there's a chance that you've added another point where moisture can leak inside, and that does fail safety inspection in quite a few states and can cause damage to the interior components, your bulbs and wiring inside. The other option is magnetic lighting, where you can set the lights up on the back of your vehicle and they'll stick to any metal surface. So like on your Jeep, you could probably put them on the side here. They would be a little low, but they would be about the same level as this. And those work out really well. They're stick on really fast. You run your wire up to the front and plug them in. The problem I got with those is every single time that you want to flat tow, you have to get that thing out, set it up, run the wire up, and plug in. Where our diode wiring here is going to be in the vehicle all the time with a connector at the front that we just simply plug in when we go to hook up. So it saves you a lot of time. A little bit more time up front for the install, but definitely a lot of time in the long run. And here at the front we can see the connector. Now this kit does come in several different configurations depending on what you're going to need, because sometimes if you're maybe just getting a new vehicle and you're going to reuse some components, you don't need everything and you can reuse some of your old stuff. So we installed the kit that comes with the connector as well as a 6 to 7 Coily cable, and here's our 6-way connector on here. But you can get it without the connector and cable, where it's just the diodes and the wiring that you run up here to the front, and you can then provide your own connector. It comes as well as an option with a 4-pole, so when you run the wiring up to the front, you'll have a 4-pole here. You can also get a 4-pole flat, 4-pole round, or the 6-round. And in these 6-round versions, like we're showing off here, you can get it in 3 different cable options. We're showing off the Coily cable option, but there's also a straight cable option, which is great for tow bars that have cable management with channels, such as Roadmaster's Falcon All-Terrain. And they also have them in hybrid options, which is half coiled, half straight, which works out really well in tow bars with cable management that are a little bit longer, that just need the extra length. And you'll see something like that with, for example, like Roadmaster's Nighthawk. It has a hybrid cable that it comes included with that tow bar. For that example, you probably wouldn't want to purchase the kit that comes with. You would want to get one without. So you can see the different options. So just pay attention to your tow bar and other components you're purchasing so you can get the best wiring kit to match the rest of your components. There's 5 main components you'll need when flat towing your vehicle behind your motorhome. You'll need your tow bar, which is the connection between your motorhome and your vehicle. Your safety cables, which is a supplemental connection in addition to your tow bar. You'll need your base plate, which provides the connection point on your vehicle that you'll attach your tow bar to. You also need your diode wiring, which will take your lighting signals from your motorhome and transfer it to the lights at the back of your vehicle, so people behind you will know your intentions when going down the road. And lastly, your supplemental braking system, which will apply the brakes in the vehicle when you hit them in your motorhome, so you can help you to come to a safe stop. Now that we've covered some of the features of our diode wiring, why don't you follow along with us and we'll show you how to get it installed. We'll begin our installation back here at the back of the vehicle. We're on the driver's side. You'll find your taillight wiring straight up under here. This rubber piece you can just pull down to access the wiring. Now on our Jeep here, the customer has custom lights, custom wiring, so none of this is going to be factory, so you're going to have to test your wiring yourself to determine which one is the appropriate one on your vehicle, because it's not going to match up with this vehicle. Now to do that, you can use a test light. I already know which ones they are, but we'll show you how to test them. So we're intending on making our cut to add our diodes in at roughly this position. So we're going to do our test here I recommend when you're testing the wires to try to test it at a point where you're expecting to cut the wire, because once you poke this with your little tester here, you now expose the wiring to moisture. So you really don't want to do this if you don't have to, but if you can access a connector, you can disconnect a connector up there. There wasn't one here for us to access, but if there is on yours, you could access that and check the pins. So I'm going to turn the taillights on, and then we'll test our wiring here. I know that our circuits are going to be our green and our yellow, but we'll go ahead and I'm just separating the two because in this particular harness, they're all together, so it makes it difficult to test them. So we're just cutting in between them to separate out that. This is just particular to this particular wiring here, so you guys probably want to do that at home. So I separated out the green and the white because I know those are the colors on this vehicle. I went ahead and turned on the running lights, so you can see the running lights are on back there. So we want to test our circuit. Our test light's clipped to a ground source, to a bolt there at the back that I know is grounded. So when we check our wiring here, the one that has power on it's going to make our light beep, and it should light up, but the light on this is broken. So you'll hear the beep though. Now I already know it's the yellow wire, so I'm just going to show you here. If I test this wire, it beeps. So that's our taillight wire. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off the taillights. Now that the taillights are off, if we recheck that wire, no beep because the taillights are turned off. It no longer is energized. So that's going to be our taillight wire. Now on this particular vehicle, the turn signal and the brake light are the same circuit. So I can use the turn signal to test mine, but you would want to have an assistant press the brake when you're doing this at home because yours may not be the same. These aren't factory lights, so they may have been modified to allow it to do something else. So you'd want an assistant to go ahead and hold the brake. Again, I know on this vehicle, this particular vehicle, that my turn signal and the brake are the same circuit. So when I check here, green wire, we can see that we're getting our signal matching that. So we know this is the other circuit that we want. So when you're doing this at home, you need to find the brake light wire and the running light wire and use your test light to do so. So we've identified them, so now we can cut in and start adding our wiring. So now we've identified the wires. We're going to take those wires and cut them in half. Make sure that you've got everything turned off, turn your taillights off. Don't hold the brake pedal anymore. Make sure your turn signals and stuff like that are off. We don't want these circuits to be live while we're working on them. After we've got them cut, we're going to strip back each end. Once we've got each end stripped, go ahead and grab your diodes. So you'll get 4 of these in your kit. One of them is going to have the yellow connector. We're going to use that over here on our driver's side. We're not using it just yet though, but we need 4 of the blue connectors, the Spade terminals off of here. So go ahead and pull 4 of them off. These 4 that we're pulling off, we're going to use on the wires that we just stripped back. So each one of these is going to get one of these little Spade terminals. I like to twist the wire first. It just makes it slide into the connector a little bit easier, and then we'll crimp it down. If you need wire strippers, crimpers, butt connectors, electrical tape, or cable ties, anything like that that we'll be using to clean this up, you will get some of that stuff in your kit as far as like the cable ties. And you have to provide your own heat shrink butt connectors if you want to use those for anywhere in the setup. But as far as like these connectors, you're going to get these. All right, now that we've got all of those connected up, go ahead and grab your diodes. We're going to pull all the ends off of it and we're going to start wiring this in. Now, if we look at the diode, it has in and out written on it. Out is always going to go towards our taillight assembly, and that's going to be this half of the wiring. This goes up to the taillight. So out, we're going to plug into the side going to the taillight on our yellow wire here. And then on the other side where it's labeled in, we're going to plug in the rest of the vehicle side. So I'll plug into there. We'll then do the same thing with our green. That'll plug into there. And that'll plug into there. All right, so now we need to hook up the wiring that you get in your kit. So we're going to go ahead and open up this harness here. In this harness, we've got 4 circuits. You've got white, brown, yellow, and green. White is our ground circuit, brown is our taillight circuit, yellow is left turn and stop, and green is right turn and stop. This is going to be the wiring that we're going to route to the front. So this is going to be all of our motorhome signals that are going to be passing back, going to our diodes to illuminate the light. Now with this is just a single harness running up to the front. So since we need the taillight circuit to be on this side and also on the passenger side, we only have one brown wire here, so we don't have the taillight wire to run to both sides. So we're going to use a small section of the white wire as our jumper to bring that taillight circuit over to the other side. So just keep that in mind. That's going to save you from having to purchase additional wire. Now, if you want it to be color matched, you can buy additional brown wire here at etrailer. But if you want to save some money, you get plenty of wire in this kit, and you can just follow along with us, and we'll show you how to hook it up. So we're going to take this end here and snip in between each one of the wires. This will allow us to peel it back and utilize the wires more easily. All right, so there we go. Now, I eventually want this wire to be routed up towards the front. So just kind of assessing the vehicle real quick. It kind of looks like we could just go, almost just go directly into the frame there, which is probably going to be our plan, is to just go right into the frame. So since we got an idea of a plan on how we're going to route it, we can just make our connections right here. So I'm going to strip back the yellow, the brown, and the white. The green wire is for the passenger side, so we don't need it just yet. You can peel back some more. It's going to eventually get routed all the way over to the passenger side, so we're going to be peeling off a lot more than this, but just kind of get it out of your way for now, because we're not going to be using it on this side. So we'll strip each one of these back. All right, there we go. I'm going to peel them back just a little bit further, but that should be plenty. All right, so now that we've got those stripped, you'll have two Spade terminals left to use over here on the driver's side. You got that yellow one and the blue one. We're going to put the blue one on the yellow wire. So just slide that on there and crimp it onto your yellow wire. The yellow one has actually a slightly larger inner diameter than the blue. They're designed to accept thicker gauge wires. And Roadmaster thought about that for us because they know that we're going to have to get the taillight signal jump to the other side, so we can twist two wires together and use that white wire like we talked about to jump her over. So we'll twist the brown and the white together, slide the yellow one, the yellow Spade terminal, over those circuits and crimp it down. All right, so we've got that made. We can go ahead and plug these in. Now, it's going to look a little weird on here because on our Jeep, the stop turn circuit is green in color, but it's yellow on normal 4-pole wiring. And we're just following the standard 4-pole wiring color code for our diode wiring that we're going to install here. So yellow is actually driver's side stop turn on the harness here. Yellow on our Jeep is our taillight circuit. On the wiring we're running, brown is the taillight circuit, so it needs to plug into here. And that is the other in for our taillight circuitry there. All right, so we've got those connected up. Our diodes here, we're going to peel back the adhesive backing, and then we're just going to stick the two diodes together so they're not clunking around on each other. Just like that. Okay, so next thing we're going to do now is we need to route the green wire across to the other side, along with a small section of this white wire. So I'm going to be peeling back the green. I'm going to poke it up over the frame because we're going to try to avoid anything excessively hot and also try to avoid any moving components when routing our wiring. So I'm going to get this routed to the other side real fast, across roughly in the path I'm going to go, because we need to use that green wire to help us determine the length of white wire that we're going to cut. So after we go over the frame here, really before I go over the frame, just to make things easier visually for you guys at home to see, we're going to hold it up just here across the back, and I'm going to keep peeling it until I can get over to the other side. So that's enough for us to get over to the other side to make our connections over there. So now that I know this is how much green wire that I'm gonna need to make the run to the other side, we're gonna take the green wire now and we're gonna fold it back along the rest of our harness like this. And just keep running it down your harness to where the green wire ends. Where this green wire ends is where we're gonna cut our white wire. That'll give us an equal length of green and white to run to the other side. So I put a little snip there between it. We'll then kind of pinch it here and snip between the white and the brown so we can separate those out. All right, there we go. We've got it separated out. We're gonna peel it back towards the green wire now. And now we'll take both the green and the white wires. We're gonna go over the frame and run them across to the other side. All right, so after we've got it routed over here, the wiring over on this side looks very similar. It's actually the same colors on this side, but you would want to test yours at home because it often does change to different coloring, but since none of this is factory anymore, it ends up being the same. So you'll check it on this side just like we showed you over on the other side. Make sure you know which one is your tail and your stop circuit. It's going to be the same colors on this side, with green being our stop and yellow being the tail. So I've got that plugged into the light. These are tapped into the factory wire in there, going back forward. And this is the wires that we run over, the green and the white that we have attached to the brown for taillights to jumper the taillight circuit over. So this is going to end up plugging in right there. So we do have a little bit more that we routed over than we needed. We ended up a little bit, maybe 6 inches too long. That's okay, we can trim that down. I'm going to trim a little bit off, maybe like that, because I always like to save a little excess for future repairs or maybe rerouting something if you're adding other accessories. So we'll trim off some of that excess, strip these back, and then each one of these is going to get a blue Spade terminal. On your passenger side, you'll see that it's going to be all blue Spade terminals over here. There is no yellow one on this side. All right, we got our Spade terminals connected there, so now we just need to hook them up. So on this side, green is our stop turn, and the factory wire, well, not the factory, but the vehicle stop turn circuit on this side is going to be green. So we're going to plug it into that connection point here, labeled in. And then this white wire that we routed over is a jumper for our taillight circuit. Taillights on our vehicle are going to be the yellow circuits here, so we're going to plug this into the in for this diode. After you've got these connected, we'll take our wiring here, we'll tuck it back up to there, use some cable ties to secure it, and then this piece here, these little ears just kind of poke back up there to hold this piece up. The rest of our wiring we're now going to route to the front of the vehicle towards our base plate. I do recommend routing it up to your engine compartment if you're installing a braking system, and then back down to the base plate, which is what we're going to be doing. So I'm going to route that wire now, and then I'll show you the path I took to get it there. So now the rest of our wiring is going to route towards the front. So we just stay on top of the frame here. Again, we'll be hiding that up behind here, this excess wiring. So we go up above the frame, we stay on top of the frame. There's wiring here that we go ahead and use cable ties that come in our kit to secure it to stay on top of the frame. And from there, we just kind of do that the whole way forward. We just push it around the body mount, keep it here on the outside, use cable ties with existing wiring here, and just follow that all the way up. Once we get to right here at this point in front of this body mount, that's where we push it up to the engine compartment. Now just in front of our rear tire, this is where we have our white wire where we had made our cut. So we need to attach this to ground. So I'm just going to grab the white wire here. We're going to attach it to ground right here on the side of the frame. So go ahead and strip back your white wire. After you've got it stripped, you'll get a small ring terminal in your kit. We're going to connect that to our wire there. Here's our ring terminal. So that'll just slide in there. And you'll crimp that down. And now we'll attach the ring terminal to the frame using the included self-tapping screw. So we've got it here. We'll use an 8mm or a 5/16 socket. Either one will work with the self-tapping screw here, and just run it right into the side of the frame. Now we want to make sure it's nice and snug. We don't want to over tighten it, so we're just kind of checking, see if it rotates. It's not all the way tight yet. All right, that's pretty snug right there, so that's where we're going to leave it. We don't want to over tighten it and break our self-tapping screw. So now we're in our engine compartment. Our wire's going to come up right here. It's a Jeep, so you should have plenty of room to be able to see, so just poke it around the side of the frame there, bring it up, and then we're going to cable tie it to existing wiring here. Keep heading forward. Once we get up to the front, we're going to go down, and when we tuck it down there, we just tuck it down by the frame. Here's our steering gear here, so we do stay just on top of the steering gear, because we want to avoid the actual steering shaft. Make sure you're avoiding that, so that's why we kind of stayed up above it to clear that. And we just come out at our base plate right here, and we'll make our connections right here to the mounting point that the base plate provides for our electrical connector. Now that we got our wiring up here to the front, we'll connect it to our electrical connector. So I'm gonna give myself enough excess to be able to work with. This looks like a pretty good amount right here. So we'll trim off the rest. We can now take each one of these circuits and cut in between them like we did in the back. After we cut in between these, we are gonna strip them, but I do recommend holding off on stripping it until we slide our boot on there. So the boot's just on the back of your electrical. You need to slide that on first. You can strip them first, but then it makes it kind of a mess, so it's easier to slide that on, then strip. And we don't want to strip off a whole lot on these, less than you would if you were using a butt connector, because there's going to be a lot of wires in this little area, and they're just held down by a screw. And if we have one strand out of any of these wires that touches the other one, we can get some strange operation of our circuitry here. So we want to try to make sure that they do stay isolated from one another. So now we'll look at the back side of our connector. This is going to be labeled, so that way we know where each component's going to go. I always like to start with ground. Ground is going to be labeled GD, so it's labeled GD there. That's our white circuit, so we're going to be hooking that one up. So unscrew the screw in that section. We'll then flip it around. Next on here is LT, that is left turn. That's our yellow circuit, so we'll open that one up. Next is RT, that's right turn. That's our green circuit, so we'll open that one up. Next is S. That is for a brake output, or often used in this situation as like a monitor light circuit. We're not going to be using that. Next is TM, so skip S and go on to TM. TM is our taillights, that's our brown circuit, so we'll open that up. And we've gone full circle now. The only one left is the middle pin. That's often used for a charge line circuit for charging the battery. You can buy those here at eTrailer. We're not installing one today though, so we'll leave that pin alone. And now we're just going to take each of those circuits, poke them into the appropriate one, and tighten it back down. So I like to start again at ground, so let's find ground. There's GD, grab the white wire, poke it in there, and tighten it down. And we want to make sure that our screw is tightening on the wire that we strip back and not on the sheathing. If you tighten it down on the sheathing, then you won't make a good wire connection, and your circuit likely will not operate. So we're just going to go in a circle. Next is left turn. That's yellow, so that'll poke in. Then we have green for right turn, or RT. Add a strand that was sneaking away there, so we're going to twist those up. Again, even a single strand out of here can cause strange functionality of your circuits, so unwanted functionality in most cases. And then we skip the S and end up on TM, which is taillights, and our brown circuit. So a little poke in there, and then we'll tighten it down. All right, so that we've got all of our connections made there. Next thing we're going to do is grab some dielectric grease. You can get this here at eTrailer if you need some. We're going to fully coat the back side of this, and we're going to be pretty generous with it because we want to keep out dirt, debris, moisture, anything that's going to potentially cause us issues down the road. This will keep corrosion at bay. Now we're being pretty generous with it there. Our boot then will slide back over. Go ahead and slide that on there. You can wipe away some of the excess grease. And then I take a little bit of electrical tape to keep the boot from wanting to slide off of there and slide around and our grease potentially getting washed out of there. We're gonna use some tape to just tape it to both our electrical connector, and then I'll tape the other side to tape it to our wiring, and that'll help keep our boot where we need it. Now, as far as mounting goes, if you have a base plate that provides a mounting location, that's where I would recommend mounting it. If not, we do have brackets available here at eTrailer, and you can find your own mounting position for it. So since our base plate has a mounting position, we're going to utilize it. The hardware we're using here does come included with the base plate, and we'll use an 8mm socket to tighten it down. All right, so now that we've got our connection there, we can go ahead and plug in our tester and test it out. If you're doing this at home, you can plug it into your motorhome and use that to test all your lighting. So I've gone ahead and plugged in my test box here to the 6-way connector at the front. We're gonna run through all of our lights and make sure that everything works there at the back of our Jeep. So we're gonna start with our tail lights. That all looks good. Then we'll do our left turn signal. That looks good. Then our right turn signal. That's also good. And lastly, our brake lights. And with all of our signals working properly, at this point we just need to go back through our install, clean up any loose wiring with the included cable ties, and we're good to go. And that completes our installation of Roadmaster's diode wiring kit on our 1989 Jeep Wrangler YJ.